Mark has a savings account with $43,000 in it. He has not touched it in 6 years. He also has a 19-year-old car he refuses to replace, brown bag lunches every single day, and a vacation budget that he guards more carefully than his retirement account. Last year, he spent $11,000 on a family trip to Japan. Cash, no regret, no hesitation. His coworker David, who is the same age, earns the same salary, and started at the same company on the same month, does the opposite of almost everything Mark does. David has a newer car, eats out most days, carries a small credit card balance he is always almost paying off, and has not taken a real vacation in 3 years because the timing never feels right and the money never feels available. David thinks Mark is rigid and strange. Mark thinks David is one bad month away from a problem. They are both Gen X born between 1965 and 1980, and the way this generation handles money looks completely irrational from the outside until you understand what they lived through. Then it makes perfect sense. To understand why Gen X is so different, you need to go back to what shaped them, not as adults. As kids, Gen X grew up mostly unsupervised. These were the latchkey kids, the ones who came home to empty houses, made their own snacks, solved their own problems, and figured things out without a manual. That built something into their psychology that never left, a deep, almost physical need for self-reliance. If you want something done right, you do it yourself. If you want to be safe, you make sure of it yourself. You do not wait for someone to rescue you because nobody ever did. Then they entered adulthood just in time to watch the 1987 stock market crash. They built careers through the 90s, started feeling confident, and then watched the dot-com bubble erase paper wealth overnight in 2000. They recovered, bought homes, started planning, and then 2008 hit and took the floor out from under everything again. 3 financial catastrophes before most of them turned 45. Their savings habits did not come from a financial planning course. They came from watching people around them lose everything more than once. This is why Mark keeps $43,000 sitting in an account earning almost nothing. It is not a smart investment strategy. It is a psychological scar that became a survival mechanism. That money is not there to grow. It is there so that if everything collapses, he can see it. He can verify it exists. He can control it. The low yield is the price he pays for the feeling of certainty in a world that has proven to him repeatedly that certainty is not guaranteed. And here is the cost that does not show up anywhere. At a modest 5% annual return in a simple index fund, that $43,000 would grow to approximately $70,000 in 10 years. Sitting in a low-yield savings account, it grows to maybe $48,000. The difference is $22,000 generated by fear, not by reason, not by strategy, by a psychological pattern installed before he had the vocabulary to question it. But here is where Gen X gets complicated in a way that no other generation quite does. They are not just managing their own money. They are managing 3 budgets at the same time. Their parents, the baby boomers, are aging, and because this country does not make eldercare easy or cheap, Gen X is quietly absorbing those costs. Doctor visits, medications, supplemental housing, extra travel to check on people who should not be living alone. These are not line items in anyone's budget guide. They just show up. Their kids, mostly millennials and older Gen Z, are not fully independent yet in many cases. Housing costs priced them out of buying early. Student debt slowed everything down. So Gen X is covering phone plans, car insurance, emergency loans, cosign leases, plane tickets home. Again, not in the budget, just in the bank account. And in the middle of all that, Gen X is supposed to be funding retirement accounts and hitting savings targets designed for people with 1 financial life, not 3. This is what financial researchers call the sandwich generation problem, and Gen X is the filling that nobody talks about. The result is that they feel less financially secure than any other generation despite earning more than they ever have in their lives. That feeling is not delusional. It is accurate. They are supporting more people with the same income than any generation before them was expected to. Mark handles this by eliminating every optional expense he can and holding cash like a bunker. David handles it by staying flexible and keeping spending available because he knows something unexpected is going to come from his parents or his kids, and he needs to be able to respond. Neither of them is wrong. They are both solving the same problem with different tools. Now the fair defense, because if you look at Gen X habits only through the lens of what they're doing wrong, you miss the part of the story that other generations should be studying. Gen X is the most self-sufficient generation when it comes to financial decision-making. They do not need a social media trend to tell them to save. They do not need a financial influencer to explain compound interest. They learn from watching real consequences in real time, and they built real behavior from it. 79% of Gen X uses cash as a primary payment method, specifically because it forces a real-time awareness of what is leaving. That is not primitive. That is a deliberate friction mechanism that prevents the kind of invisible spending that destroys millennial and Gen Z budgets through contactless payments and automatic subscriptions. Gen X is also the most likely generation to have an actual emergency fund, not a theoretical one, not a plan to start one, an actual funded account sitting there for when things go wrong. And things go wrong, they know this better than anyone. What Gen X gets right is that money is not theoretical, it is behavioral. You do not fix your finances with better information. You fix them with better habits that are strong enough to hold when your emotions tell you to do something different. Gen X built those habits the hard way, through repeated exposure to loss and recovery, and the habit stuck. What Gen X gets wrong, and this is the part that is expensive, is that the same psychological armor that protected them from disaster is now preventing them from growth. Keeping cash in low-yield accounts out of fear of market volatility is not caution. At current inflation rates, it is a slow loss. Refusing to delegate financial decisions to advisors or automated systems because of a deep-seated need for personal control means that decisions get made reactively under stress instead of proactively according to a plan. The real trap for Gen X is not the sandwich generation burden. It is letting a psychology that was built for survival in scarcity run financial decisions in a period of relative abundance. The brain that learned to hoard cash in 1992 is running the same program in 2025, and the math does not work the same way anymore. The next time you hear someone describe Gen X money habits as contradictory, understand what you are actually looking at. You are looking at a generation that was shaped by abandonment, trained by catastrophe, and is now holding up 3 generations on a budget designed for one. The contradictions are not irrational. They are a perfectly rational response to an irrational amount of pressure accumulated over a lifetime. The question that matters is not why Gen X handles money the way they do. The question is which of those habits are still solving the original problem and which ones have become the problem. Because the answer to that question is different for every person, and the only way to find it is to look at the behavior without the story attached to it. If this video helped you understand a pattern you recognized in yourself or someone you know, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week we break down the real psychology behind the financial decisions that shape how people live. And the next video is going to look at why the generation that talks about money the most online tends to be the generation building the least of it in real life.